redo everything.
All right. Colleagues, thank you all for coming. What you're going to see is a passion project. I'm actually super uniquely positioned to tell you some of this information. I think it's getting out there. I think the pendulum is swinging in that direction, and I want to arm people with information. And basically, here's my thesis. Here's why. The lion's share of people, and it's getting worse and worse every day, are absolutely silently suffering for not, in my opinion, once I've learned it. People are working hard and trying things and failing at it. But if you actually know what's going on, it's actually pretty simple. I do help people, full disclosure, this is my last year at East. This has been one of the blessings of my life. But I am starting a business, Almost Easy Fitness. I call it that because that's just kind of what came out. Everybody I was working with was like, this isn't hard, this is almost easy. And so that's what we started calling it, right? And I absolutely, truly believe that. And I'm not trying to sell you anything, and I'm here. You have access to me. So I'm a nerd about this. So if you are interested, I will happily sidebar, talk to you at some other point. Send me an email if you have questions about something. It'll help me learn. I'll be happy to tell you this stuff. But I'm working on an online course that I'm getting ready to launch. So real enemy is not your character, which is what we think ourselves, right? And other people who are kind of naturally fit, naturally healthy, they kind of think that they got something special. And it's really not that. And in fact, it's typically usually the opposite. The people that struggle the most have built that muscle up of discipline. So if you like what you're hearing today, my roommate basically turned me on to this podcast. And it was crazy. So this guy, Why We Get Sick, amazing book. It's written by Benjamin Bikeman, right? And my roommate was like, it's like listening to you talk, Dan. And so he has me do this, and I was like, I need to buy that book. And I literally went home, and it was on my nightstand. I just bought it the weekend before. So, but it is, just reinforces this information. But, and I can send a slideshow out to you. I highly recommend if you're walking or you're doing something to listen to this podcast, right? If for some reason you don't like me or whatever, you don't like my message, which happens, Trudy. I figured it out. And it always catches me off guard. You don't like the shape of my head or my squeaky voice or whatever, listen to this, because because of this, I'm really passionate about this. I want people to know it. I feel compelled to tell people. It's really simple. You're going to hear it. This is my big credibility clause that I'm a coach. I've done some things. I have some education. I think some people think that JROTC instructors aren't educated. I've caught that a couple of times before. Ms. Moz knows. Her husband was an officer. She knows I'm overeducated, actually, and that's not to brag. It's by dumb luck, to be honest with you. But I've done some things. I've had some success. All right. I am absolutely not licensed medical to do anything in any state, right? I'm also, so do your own homework. I'm a coach. I tell people information. You're making all your decisions, right? And I take a lot of pride in that. And I think there needs to be more people like that. Maybe that could be you guys teaching other people stuff as well. I have friends that are like this. I don't even have Instagram. I'm obviously not an Instagram model, right? So, but people think I'm trying to be some sort of influencer. I'm not. I'm just passionate about this information and I want to get it out. I'm also not a trainer. I know how to train. I can do a little bit of training, but people think I'm like a trainer at a gym or something like that. I don't do that. I basically sit down and talk to you and coach you to do the thing that you want to do anyways. All right, take a look at this really quick. I did walk around and ask some people, and so this is actually kind of a basic language that you could learn easily in an evening. Right? If you don't know this stuff already. Does anybody in here know what the glycemic index is? Okay. Glycemic load? Okay. Basically that's the actual load based off the fiber you get, the actual impact of all the other things you're eating. Glycemic index is how much sugar goes in your bloodstream when you eat this one thing by itself, isolated, which never happens, right? Anybody know what basal insulin secretion rate is? This one's pretty important. Anybody ever heard of insulin resistance?
Yeah.
Okay. And it has to do, how about type 3 diabetes? Type 3 diabetes. Yeah. And three. Listen to Benjamin Bikeman if you want to listen to that podcast. Thank you for coming. Grab some waters. right? Healthy fats versus like seed oils and stuff like that. That word should be getting out, right? How about ghrelin and leptin? Those are the hormones. Ghrelin is the hormone your stomach tells you, I'm hungry. And leptin is the one that's secreted by fat that basically says you're satiated, right? And it's pretty simple things that if you get to know, you can actually train them, right? You do actually have some control over those things. You can train your body to not secrete ghrelin. You train your capillaries, believe it or not, to shunt your blood differently. That's how you acclimate, right? So your body, you condition your body in some amazing ways. Crisco, anybody know anything fun about Crisco? If it came out today, they wouldn't allow it. It's grandfathered. There's a lot of lawyers make a lot of money, right? In business, they just do. It's basically poison. And I know a lot of our students eat fake muck-tuck made with Crisco, and it's essentially poison in my opinion. And this word natural flavors, you see it? You know what that means? What does natural flavors mean?
Sugar.
Natural flavors means anything that they want to like not tell you about and put on the ingredients label, right? Just and I have a pretty good example of that. Hopefully I come back around to it. All right. So this is why I feel super compelled, and I know like odds are we're a reflection of 85% of Americans, right, are dealing with insulin resistance, some sort of metabolic disease, prediabetes, hypertension, have some of these problems. Fascinatingly, it really comes down, and we'll get to it. Fascinatingly, it really comes down to insulin. It's all kind of connected, and how it manifests is totally different. We vary. You know, you could be a sub-Saharan African and you could light a match off of your abs, and then still have inflammation and get Alzheimer's, which is type 3 diabetes, right? And that's what they're calling it. It's not official yet, but basically that's the street lingo. Because you get all this neurotissue that gets glycation. That's a fancy word for you have sugar that basically destroys the epithelial layer of your cells, including your neurons, right? So I'm trying to go fast because I promise you we can get through this. So here's the money slide, I like to call it. So here's Dan Erskine in my prime, in my 30s, in company command, essentially military officer in the Army. I'm a professional athlete. I'm logging time. I'm working my butt off. I have a freaking degree in health and human performance. If I can't do it, and I was doing it, right? And my peers are doing it, and I'm a competitive guy. My peers are just, eating where they want and running, and they don't know I'm silently really struggling with this, right? And people look at you a little differently when your face is round, especially in the Army where you're in this business where you're supposed to be doing stuff. You get judged. I noticed.
They put you on the Fat Boy program.
Yeah. Well, and I'd have to. And I was a commander. I was a commander. So I never go on the Fat Boy program. But what I would do is I would do these crazy diets we've all done. HCG diet, 45-day reboot with Joe diet. All of the diets, and basically what it comes down to is they're all the same thing, different shades of the same color, is my belief, right? So essentially, that's 20 years ago. That's when I'm supposed to be. That's when I'm doing those things. I'm literally doing the things that my degree told me to do. The science was sound. The advice was not sound, right? I'm doing all those things, and I'm in Iraq an hour and 15 minutes every day until I had to have knee surgery on my left leg because I'm doing the elliptical, the low impact thing. I would do it every day for like an hour and 15 minutes, right? Like I was motivated and it wasn't working and it was extremely frustrating. But luckily for me and for y'all, I'm a nerd and I like nonfiction and I was determined to figure this out. All right, so now I'm in my 50s. Bruce is actually a guest I invited because I met him at the gym. We started talking about his Porsche, and he basically told me this same story that I just told you, but he did in a different spot. And I was like, hey, you want to sit down and talk about this? Just as a community service thing like I'm doing with y'all. I was like, do you want to talk about this? And basically, I don't know, Bruce, was I crazy?
Nope.
What were you doing?
I was working on an hour, working on the elliptical and doing 5-minute miles at 68 years old and not having any effect.
right? And so, how are you feeling now? You feeling a little better?
And I haven't done any cardio since about a week after we talked, and it's been, I think I'm on day 55 of the diet.
Yeah.
It's,
Is it a good diet?
it is so far.
It's a good diet. It's right. That's the other crazy cool fun thing is our body is, I believe we were built by a genius, and our body's a genius, and it wants what's actually healthy for us. So I have my blood works downstairs. I can show them to you. I meant to bring them up here. But the VA, I'm an example of a good turnaround, going from in my 30s where I'm struggling, back pain, all this stuff. I'm riddled with trauma, to be honest with you. 3 leg surgery, but I feel like I'm 25, 30 now, right? Because I figured this out, I don't have all this inflammation, and it's all kind of tied to the same thing. Right? So there's a lot of dogmatic folklore out there that's pervasive. I believe it's spells. You almost have to unbrainwash on some stuff. And I don't think it's people's fault because you're doing what they tell you to do. And again, it drove me mad. I'm like, why? I mean, I'm not a genius, but I do have this degree, doing all this stuff. I'm clearly doing all this stuff. It's not working, right? But when you do that thing, you're set up for failure. So I call this the 6 secrets, so have a peek at that really quick. We're going to talk about that, and they definitely tie into one another. Like if you understand these, you'll walk away with a lot today. Give you a quick peek, look at that. Perfect timing. Come on in. Grab some water, and there's some somewhat healthy snacks over there. You gotta be really careful.
I couldn't do that faster.
Oh. All right, you ready? Look, have a peek. Okay. Calories. This is a brainwash illusion. Your body does not know what a calorie is. It doesn't know what a calorie is. It knows what energy is, and it knows what information is. And based off of the energy information that you give it, your body will do drastically different things, right? But there's this, no, you just gotta you gotta count the calories, you calorie deficit. I never count calories. And I don't get on the scale either, to be honest with you, because it's too dang neurotic. Me personally, I don't, it's so neurotic, I was like, it's not working. And then, well, if I'm gonna do the thing anyways, why would I even do that to myself? Right? Hopefully that makes sense. So, I mean, you just look at steak versus pizza and soda. About the same amount of calories, your body does different things with them, right? And it all comes down to this very, very important master hormone called insulin. And then ghrelin, like I said before, and leptin are also, there's interplay there as well. Just wondering if you guys knew. Didn't want to be insulting anyone's intelligence. Right? So elevated insulin levels, right? When you go get your blood work, your doctor is not checking. They're checking your blood sugar and your A1C, right? A1C is your glycation level of your red blood cells. It's an indicator if you have pre-diabetes, right? They're checking that stuff. They're not checking your insulin levels. And then they see, oh, your blood sugar's low. Oh, your blood sugar's low. That's a really simple test. But they never check to see if your insulin is high. And maybe, just maybe, yes, it is, your blood sugar happens to be low and fighting this because you have all this extra insulin. And that just causes, it's kind of two sides of the same coin. It causes all this insulin resistance problems, but then the hyperinsulinemia causes a whole host of other damaging problems too. So you figure that out and figure out how to bring down this thing called your basal insulin secretion rate. It's a fancy way of saying you're fasting insulin. You're fasting insulin. When you wake up in the morning, here's a huge revelation for me. I used to think, I knew what the glycemic index was. We talked about that a second ago, right? I used to think my pancreas only secretes insulin when I eat something. That is not true. There's a 50% problem. It's always pumping out insulin. But depending on what type of information you're giving it, when you're giving it that energy and information, you can actually train it to be a little more greedy. Now, if you're sub-Saharan African or some sort of Nordic person, it's going to naturally be greedy. But then you're going to have higher blood sugar levels, and that's going to cause other problems and later on. So it's just, your weight is only actually one indicator. One not very good indicator of health, and one not very good indicator is definitely not a good indicator for performance. Right? There's no correlation to how much fat you have to how well you do in a sport. All right, does that make sense? Is this making sense? All right, this is huge. This was huge. I read this book by Dr. Davis, Wheat Belly, probably like 10 years ago, and it just blew my mind. Right? This is the thing, like everyone's like, oh, I hear what he's saying. He's saying avoid the sugar. If I avoid the sugar, like we're already doing, right? That's our strategy now, right? Avoid the sugar. If I avoid the sugar, then I'm good. Then the insulin will naturally be down if I just avoid the sugar. But let me eat that bran muffin. Let me eat that oatmeal. Let me eat that those snacks. Actually, by the way, I saw it today. I bought them yesterday at Costco. They say healthy whole grains, right? And so, fun fact: wheat toast. And surprisingly, I knew this already, and then I looked on the back of the book. You can have a peek. Did you know that eating 2 slices of whole wheat bread can increase your blood sugar more than 2 tablespoons of blood sugar? And you can look that up, or of table sugar. You have you eat 2 pieces of wheat toast. The glycemic index of that is 75. The highest you can go is 99 or 100. White bread, by the way, is basically the only thing I know. White sugar, 65. It's lower. White sugar has less impact than that healthy whole grain wheat toast you're having slathered on stuff because they're telling you to do it. So to me, that was crazy, right? The other thing is, it's addictive. So it interacts with your opiate receptors. It's addictive. And you don't even realize you're addicted to it. You go do these crazy Mediterranean diets, all these other diets, and then you're like, okay. And then you go back and you start having a little bit of the drug, the wheat in any form, right? And all of a sudden you're getting hangry again. By the way, that never happens to me anymore. And it's awesome. And I hear people say, oh, I love bread. It's like, well, you're actually addicted to it. And I mean, it just is what it is. I'm not trying to be like some haughty, oh, I know, or whatever. I'm really trying to just tell you. And it's amazing when you get on the other side of that wall, how good the champagne tastes and how comfortable the hot tub is, right? And you see the people suffering on the other side of that wall. It's like you start seeing food for what it is. And then you're weird. I'm a weird guy. I'd rather be weird. Being healthy is weird. 85% of us are not weird, right? Right? Being healthy is weird.
Good afternoon, with the owner of the car license plate JP8862. Please remove your car from the sidewalk on the Regatta side. The sidewalk on the Regatta side of the building.
I didn't park on the sidewalk.
I got about 10 minutes to get through the majority of this stuff. If you were to walk away with if you need to walk out this door, this guy is where you start, right? Because if you're focused on the sugar and you think you're good and you're doing this other thing, it's actually worse. It's spiking your blood sugar, right? It's addictive. And oh, by the way, modern wheat has been crossbred with grasses. Like, bamboo is a grass. So a guy won the Nobel Peace Prize for feeding people because they increased the yield on the Mexican midget wheat, like literally, to increase the yield, but the stalks weren't strong enough. They fall over. Now it has, ancient wheat had like 14 chromosomes, and modern wheat has in the 40s, right? And oh, by the way, what do you think happens when your body gets some of that? It doesn't recognize something we don't eat grass, right? So where do you think all this inflammation comes from? I actually, as one of my VA ratings, I was diagnosed with psoriasis, autoimmune. I don't have it anymore. Right? It just went away. Right? I started pulling some of these things out. It could have been maybe something else, because there's other, but I'm pretty sure there's a good chance that's what it was. So that's me riding away, right? So that's the monster. It really is. So yeah, there it is. 14 chromosomes, 42 chromosomes, right? Why does it matter? They say it may interact with your opiate receptors. We've all been hangry before, right? And it's crazy. Test it. Test it sometime. Try it. You don't go without wheat, and then you get the hangry, and then have 2 crackers, and it goes away magically. And you haven't eaten in 30 hours. So, yeah, maybe you're not going to steal someone's VCR and try to sell it to them the next day like crack cocaine or something like that. But it's still there, right? It's heavily addictive. It floods with dopamine. Your body's telling you, give me some of the drug. That's what it's doing. Right, high glycemic index, and then impact, and then because of the chromosome profile, you guys have heard of leaky gut, right? So yeah, we're damaging our gut, and then so our GI tract. Somebody said no, our GI tract starts leaking into the rest of our body, because if you know, technically speaking, your GI tract is outside your body. Did you know that? We're like big donuts, right? It's technically outside our body. You get a leaky gut. And guess what? What do you think your immune system's going to do when you have a leaky gut? Right? It's going to go that's not crazy. All right, so I kind of talked about this a little bit. So eat less and move more, it's obviously not working. Right? The conventional extreme caloric restrictions yield short-term results, but the weight often returns. It definitely did with me. And usually what happens, and it's actually weird, because remember back in the day when they told you to do like 6 meals a day? Well, guess what you just trained your pancreas to do?
Release more.
Keep pumping some insulin. So your basal insulin secretion rate just keeps going up and up and up and up, and it wants to store fat. So it gets better. It gets better. But you're giving yourself a little bit of the drug so you can actually go along. So, I mean, a whole host of these. So it's just not working. All right, so I could describe this a little bit. So yeah, you do a low-calorie diet. You go down to here. So this is kind of arbitrary. So you do a low-calorie diet, you go down to 1,800 calories, right? Your body does get used to 1,800 calories. You take your Instagram pictures. For those of you who have Instagram, I don't even know. You take your stuff, you prove, hey, my low-calorie, you sucked it up for 6 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever it is. And then you were doing 2,500, 3,000 calories, whatever, but you go to 1,800 calories. Your body gets really efficient at working at 1,800 calories, right? Your insulin levels are still high too, oh, by the way, so that's working against you. And then you just start eating like 2,100 calories. That's a low amount. And then you're having 300 extra pieces of energy. Now I said calories was flawed logic, but it kind of helps this make sense, right? So it's relatively speaking, so you give it more energy, but it's a lower amount, and then all of a sudden and then what do? You're like, it worked before, let me do it again. I'll go to 1,600 calories. Go to 1,600 calories, and I got these techniques and I got all this stuff. And then you go back to eating 1,800 calories. You're like, well, whatever, 1,800 calories works for. This time I'm going to 1,600. I'm going to go back to 1,800 calories. You go back to 1,800 calories. Your body's got a body that's amazingly efficient. Does it again, right? Until you're like, you're going to lose your mind. So, all right, here's the paradox. Calorie diet deficit paradox is those diets work temporarily. As the graph just showed. They will work. They'll work long enough for your body to get in shape and say, hey, oh, you did some crazy extreme stuff? I'm doing that. Oh, you're looking good. And then you go do it, and then he blows up, right? And then you get down, and you believe. You're like, okay, I was disciplined this time. But it's just all flawed logic. Hopefully some of this is making sense, right? It's all flawed logic. So they work. But they, just as that graph showed, and I would do that. I would do a diet like the HCG diet. Does anybody know what that is? Oh, that was terrible. I looked amazing after 45 days. And then you saw me 45 days later, not so amazing. I was like, what's going on here? Right? So, and then guess what? I did it again. And it was a little harder the second time. But I did it a little longer. And I did it again, and it's like, this just isn't working. And then I'd switch diets. Oh, this diet's flawed. It's just flawed logic. All right. 5 minutes, I'll give you the other secrets. Okay, this one, you can get everything right. I'm getting ready to tell you. Everything right. You can understand your insulin. You start eating the right things that are enjoyable to you, right? But if you're not sleeping, you're stressed out about things, you have these things on the top of your kidneys called your adrenal glands, right? And one of the things they do is secrete cortisol. Too much coffee can contribute to that, which I'm really sad about. I'm not going to slow down on my coffee. That's my drug of choice. I can't give everything up. No. But yeah, you secrete all this. When you're stressed out, you be doing everything right, and that cortisol, basically, its job is to go recruit sugar, go recruit energy, because you're in a stressful situation to give it to you. And then your pancreas goes, oh, there's some sugar there, blah, 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 right? And so your insulin levels bounce back up. Does that make sense? And then I did a bonus one. This one's, I have a list of them here somewhere. Like, there's so many of them. This is actually common too. So if you're on medications, I happen to not be on any prescriptions at all. If you're not on any, and that's not always been the case, if you're not on any, if you're on prescriptions, please look into them. I know like birth control for sure messes with blood sugar and insulin. For sure it does. There's a lot of common ones. So I would say, once again, I'm not a doctor. Talk to your healthcare provider, see if there's an option. If you've looked at the other things, you got in your sleep, all that stuff's going on, that might be something to look into. That could be setting you up. Little chart about what ghrelin and leptin are. Right, ghrelin once again made in the stomach. You can train this. You know, you hear about intermittent fasting. Anybody heard about intermittent fasting?
Yeah.
So you can train there's like a curve where ghrelin, like insulin, goes up you train it at certain times of the day. It's like, oh, you normally eat now. And then the ghrelin goes up and you get hungry. And if you noticed, if you push through it, it goes away. In our mind, we think we're gonna get hungry and hungry and hungrier. It doesn't work like that. But if you start doing some intermittent fasting and doing some other things, you can train yourself. I have a bunch of tricks and tips for that. And then leptin, you can actually become leptin resistant, where you're like fed, but your brain keeps telling you to eat, and that has a lot to do with food addiction.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. This is just a slide to say I earned this the hard way. I promise you. Right? Luckily enough, I was fascinated by this degree. I was a poor student in high school, and dumb luck, it's better be lucky than good. I found this degree that I was like a nerd at, and asking all the questions and showing up early, and really just had an aptitude for it. It was fascinating. I was a meathead athlete, and so I was like, oh, this is why this works. And then just, I was that big body meathead, and then you join the army, and they want you, you join the army, you gotta be thin, it's in our songs, right? And so you're really judged by that. In a way, I'm kind of thankful, because, yes, it was the fat thing for me. And, again, I'm not an Instagram model. I still carry some body fat. I feel amazing. And then when things like my psoriasis went away, what's that worth? You know what I mean? And I just know, like, I'm not insulin resistant. My blood works are good. I feel great. I never have the afternoon Z monster. One of my favorite things, besides just fitting good in my clothes and my uniform, having lots of energy, is just a nice. I don't have some maniacal energy. I just have this nice, easy energy. I don't have that afternoon Z monster. And I have noticed though, if I eat something that they sneak some of that in, then I'll like, oh geez, there was some sugar in that, wasn't it? Or something like that, depending on what it was. That does happen to me. I'm very sensitive, so I'm like the extreme end of a lot of this stuff, which a lot of you don't have to be. I want to invite Virginia to tell her story really quick. One of our interpreters. She also works out of Planet Fitness, and she saw my thing. We started talking, and she's doing all this stuff and didn't realize actually what she was doing. I asked her. She was working hard. People think, oh, I'm doing it because I'm doing all these things, and she was doing the right things, but didn't quite know why until I started talking to her.
Yeah,
Is that
I
right?
had no idea. I just figured my doctor was wrong. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes about
Thanks for coming, Mr. Hood.
6 years ago, and I just struggled up and down, weight up and down. I was on 4 medications, and I was having reactions, and it just never, my tests were crazy. And so I just threw out, it's just what I did. You should listen to your doctor. But I mean, I threw out everything my doctor said, and I said, I'm gonna do a little research. And so I researched stuff and found out, you know, everything I was doing and eating and going about losing weight, all these diets, I did all of them.
Yeah, me
And
too.
I was sore, like I couldn't walk up and down the step. Many of you remember me walking around with a cane, right? Like that's not me anymore. And it's all because I've been doing things that Major Dan is an expert at. And so, my last blood test with my diabetic test, my A1C was, before, it was a 12. Now it's
Which
a
is
5.
Oh.
Which is not even diabetic.
That's because they tell you can't do it. They
Yes.
tell you, they openly tell you can't do it.
I mean, she put me on Ozempic and all these medicines that I had
You can.
several reactions to. And it was all eating. I stopped sugar first. I did stop sugar first, and then I stopped wheat of all kinds, any bread, any wheat. I just stopped it. I'm lucky I don't have an addictive tendency in my personality, so I didn't miss it at all. But you probably would crave it, but it takes a while, you know. But I stopped sugar, wheat, and I concentrate. I'm like kind of a carnivore. I mostly eat. Like this morning I had bacon and eggs. And so I eat a lot of meat. And he said, I don't know why I got results, but Dan said it's because my body became what did you say? It starts with a K. Yeah. I still don't know.
Ketones.
Yeah.
Our
But
body-
it works. It works.
My degree told me that my brain and especially my brain, but the most of my body likes sugar. And actually, your brain in the presence of ketones and sugar will choose ketones. Well, actually, they've proven it, right? And so you're like, oh, but I got to do a keto diet and get in ketosis. Eventually, but if you do this, does anybody have coconut oil at their house? Right? It's 65% MCT oil, medium chain triglycerides. It's amazing. If you don't like the taste of coconut oil, go buy some MCT oil, right? Get that in your system, but that's exogenous ketones. Like you'll feel your brain lighten up. I don't know, Bruce, did you do any MCT oil? What'd you think?
Yeah, my memory improved, my energy improved.
Yeah, it actually, ladies, a lot of ladies run cold. You're not eating enough fat. Sorry. Your hands are cold, your feet are cold. We crawl in bed with you at night, you're cold. Right? It's true. And you're laughing, it's true. If you want MCT oil, 1 tablespoon of MCT oil, medium chain triglycerides, will also it'll tell your hypothalamus to raise your body temperature 1 degree. That's a lot. That's a lot. So just a pro tip, and then it does work.
And Dan, I think a lot of the way I was going about it caused a lot of inflammation. Last year, I couldn't close my hand, and that's hard for an interpreter. Now, look, no, I was supposed to have an operation. It's gone. It's gone. And I'm strong. I'm almost 70, so I'll tell you my age. But I feel like I'm 40. And I'm grateful to Dan for putting words to what I just kind of figured out on my own. I mean, interpreters are nerds too with research. So anyway, thank you.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So I'll answer any questions anybody wants. They want to talk about stuff. What I would appreciate is I have a YouTube channel. you got to go at Almost Easy Fitness. Please subscribe. It's community service. I'm going to put stuff out on there. You could always DM me on there. You can email me, at any point. I haven't heard about this stuff. My wife lives in northern Idaho right now, so when I'm not down there, I'm doing this kind of stuff. And but tell people and tell other people to go there, because that's all community service. I want to help people out. Do I know everything? Absolutely not. But I do run home. And me and Mr. Shirtliff were talking about something. There was a point of contention, and I ran home and looked it up, and I was like, kind of changed my view on something. We had an argument which was more addictive. And he was a biology major, so I was a physical therapist, and he knows his stuff. And the pendulum swinging, those are his words, right? People are trying to figure this out, but like you guys are all here, most of you didn't know this stuff, right? And so, help me out. Please subscribe to that, or tell people to go check it out. And again, the guy that wrote this book, right? There's a podcast, Jordan Harbinger, podcast 1201. Do yourself a favor. Listen to all this again. He's very talented. He has a PhD in the stuff I'm talking about. If we go back, did I have that slide on there?
Yeah.
Let's see. This guy right here.
So it's the Jordan Harbinger show?
Yeah, 1201. This is the title of it. Insulin resistance triggers everything from Alzheimer's to erectile dysfunction, because it glycates your epithelial layer of your cells. All right, half of U.S. adults have insulin resistance, from high blood pressure, erectile dysfunction to Alzheimer's, not just diabetes. This is good. It's wonderful, and you get to hear this stuff from another angle, from someone, who's on a renowned podcast. I'd actually never heard any of the guys' podcasts, but my roommate was like, "This sounds like you talking." And it was fun hearing. It just like reinforces it. Like, yeah, spreading the news on this is a good thing. All right. If you have any questions, I'll hang out. If you have any private concerns, even, and you trust me enough to come talk to me, I will happily tell you about. I'll tell you what I know. I'll tell you what I don't know.